topic that we are going to be dealing with now, in leading your evidence, relates to the Phahlane Task Team. And where I would like us to pick up the evidence is at the point at which you had now returned back to IPID following your suspension, which was set aside by the Constitutional Court as unlawful. And this would be around November 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. So if you can just take us through why this team was called the Phahlane Task Team, and what was the purpose of this team?
So at the time when I returned back to the office, two of my main investigators had been dismissed. That is Matthew Sissoko and Innocent Kuba. And we then had to scrape up what we had to get investigations going. So when I came back, we had to deal with a number of complaints. And one of the complaints was about the Phahlane matter. And I had asked Mandla Matlango to deal with the case. And later on, Temani Binang and Mancha Rapeso also joined.
Okay.
And then later on, Mandla approached me and said that, look, Cedric Nkabinde is up here. This is the guy. He works very well. He's up on an investigator's course. Can you consider putting him to help us? We're short of manpower. And it colloquially became Phahlane Task Team. That's how it was.
Was that, Mr. MacBride, was that the practice perhaps within IPID? Why this one? Why was this one specifically called Task Team? How were the investigations classified? How did you
So this
name
was
them?
Yes, ma'am. It was a systemic corruption, number one. From outside, it looked like a systemic corruption, number one. Number two, it covered at least 2 provinces, which was Gauteng and Eastern Cape at that stage, and it was also involved both national and provinces. But it's just in the same way like we had Marikana Task Team. And that's before I arrived. So you had Khamanyani was heading Marikana Task Team. It's before I arrived, and he headed it, and it was called Marikana Task Team, and they were dealing with the tragic Marikana incident.
Okay.
So that's how this got the name. I would imagine there were others also. So inevitably, the name changed. Sometimes it comes I-View Task Team, and someone else leads it, and so on. So it wasn't a hard and fast rule. It was not part of the structure. I suppose in some ways it's not unlike PKTT. You can establish it, you can disband it. The difference is it was made internally by us. There were no ministers involved in it, no higher powers that were involved in approving the PKTT. So part of the complaint was...
Mr. MacBride, sorry, before you go to the complaint,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned that Cedric Nkabinde had come up on secondment. Where had he come up from?
He had come up from KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, that's right.
So he was part of IPID KwaZulu-Natal?
That's correct, ma'am.
As in what position?
He was an investigator, but he wasn't in a senior position yet.
He wasn't.
A principal investigator, I think that's what they called it. Yeah.
Okay, so you also mentioned, if I can just take you to page 73 of your statement.
Yes, I have it, ma'am.
Yes, you deal with it there. Perhaps you can read that into the record.
Mahlangu indicated to me, that's Mandla Mahlangu, that Cedric Nkabenda, whom he knows and is good at investigations, had been seconded on an investigators training course in Gauteng from KwaZulu-Natal. Nkabenda joined the team investigating the complaints against Phahlane. The task team was colloquially referred to as the Phahlane Task Team by members of that team.
Okay, if you can just perhaps, for the purposes of the committee, is it standard practice within IPID that members would be seconded from various provinces? Or, I mean, how does this, is it an official thing? Or do you just call your mate and say, you can join our team? How does it actually work?
No. Ma'am, it's when there's a need that arises for more members, but the national office cannot deal with it, and it crosses over more than one province. So complaints on Phahlane came from, at various stages, from Eastern Cape, and came from Gauteng, and of course, there were national complaints also. There were not enough resources. I mean, I think later on we established a unit that was part of the formal structure called National Special Investigator Task Team, NSIT, that was called, became part of the structure. After I'd left, it was disbanded, apparently.
Okay.
I didn't go and do a media conference.
Thank you, Mr. MacBride. And what were you actually investigating in respect of General Phahlane?
Okay. Ma'am, there were two main issues. The first one was the purchase of defective investigative equipment. So instead of specialized brushes to dust the fingerprints, it was like paint brushes. The paint brushes actually wipe off the fingerprint. So and also the chemical, something was wrong with the chemical. So there are a number of issues. A lot of that is contained in, I think, in the exhibits, I'm not sure. But, and then also that at the forensics lab where Phahlane was, and this is, the complaints are emanating, I think, from even before I arrived at IPID. So it involved exhibits going missing, like rhino horn, narcotics, illegal narcotics, going missing, and instead of, and some of those narcotics, according to the allegations, found their way onto the streets. And when they were on the streets, it was marked destroyed. That was more or less the complaint. So so the complaint involved first I think it's a Colonel Munsami, I'm not sure of the surname, and then pop crew members, and also Paul O'Sullivan had laid a complaint.
Okay, if you can perhaps then go to paragraph 74.
Okay, I have it, ma'am.
Okay, are those the allegations that you are referring to?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that there were narcotics and rhino horns that were on the street. What did that have to do with General Phahlane?
Oh, he was the head of the forensics laboratory, which confirms something is what is alleged. If it's to make sure it's not baby powder and it indeed is cocaine or heroin, then the job of the lab is to double check that and confirm that indeed it is. But what happened that or large amounts on a number of occasions of the consignment that was confiscated lands up at forensic lab instead of a sample, and that would go missing. This is the report that was given to us, the allegation.
Oh, okay. In respect of the the labs because he was the
Yes.
head of forensics.
Yep.
And there's another complaint that I see at 74.1.
Yes, yes. So 74.1 relates to Phahlane's house. That the house is valued on the market at 8 million and it could not have been afforded by Phahlane. But also that there was initial reports that Phahlane had received money from a company called Criminalistics and also investigating vehicles in Phahlane's possession, which according to him were either purchased, owned by him or sponsored for the use. These had not been declared in the gift register. And secondly, is one aspect perhaps I picked up in one of the comments during his testimony is that, oh no, he's just buying and selling cars. But the key issue with that is from memory, is the amounts to acquire the car and ludicrous amounts to dispose of the car. So gratification, in our view, is now linked to the cars that are donated or bought, in inverted commas, and how they're disposed of. So that is the allegation. That case hasn't come to court yet. I think they are still busy with it, but I don't know the full details of it.
So, Mr. MacBride, when General Phahlane came before this commission last week on
Yep.
Wednesday, he informed this commission, this committee, that he was trading in cars. So what in essence was happening is that he would purchase one car, and when he trades it in for another, it would remain in the register as though he still owns the car that has now been traded in. Are you saying that that is inaccurate, the evidence that he gave this committee?
My understanding where the loophole is in that version of events is the amounts used for vehicles on the reselling. So vehicles are sold at more than their market value and more than their resale value. Sometimes exorbitant amounts above it. So that's what we looked at. Yeah.
Okay, but that you said is still an ongoing investigation.
Indeed, yes.
So we'll park that for now.
Thank you.
If we can then just turn to RJM 13, Annexure 13, which is at page 599.
1 second, ma'am.
Is that document in front of you there at 599?
So the document at 599 is Cedric Nkabinde opening up the case against Kgomotso Phahlane, and he is there as the investigating officer. And he activates the criminal investigation. And later on 601, I think it is, he also makes a complaint with an affidavit.
Okay, before we get to the affidavit,
Yes.
if you look at page 599 at the bottom of the page, on the right, left-hand side is a date.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you read that into the record?
2011, 2017.
So this was in 2017, on the 20th of November.
Yes, ma'am.
And at Brooklyn Station, which is at the top left-hand corner, is where this complaint was laid by Cedric as the investigator, as you have mentioned.
Yes, he's the,
So if you could then turn to page 601, which forms part of the same annexure.
yes, I have it, ma'am.
What is that document?
Well, that document is Cedric making an affidavit in support of his assertion that there's a criminal case to be investigated.
Okay.
So he's supporting the opening of the case, and this is in effect his A1 statement.
Okay. At the top of the state of that document is writing in manuscript. What is that? What should we make of that?
So that's Brooklyn case number, according to this, 565-11-2017. So the case is open in Brooklyn, and it's a 565th case of November 2017.
Okay. So in this document, Cedric signed this affidavit. It is commissioned at page 603. And he starts out this affidavit by stating his full names, his personal number, and his phone number at paragraph 1. At paragraph 2 of the document, he states the purpose of the charge, the purpose of the complaint, rather.
Yes, ma'am.
And it reads, on 2017, on the 12th of October 2017, an alleged fraud and corruption was reported by the source that the former acting national commissioner, Lieutenant General Phahlane, initiated a procurement of software of media monitoring and a secure encrypted mobile communication system to prevent mobile cell phones to be intercepted, which was not part of the motivation, which worth the total of 54,229,000 in some change. Could you speak to that? What was that referring to, and why did Cedric Nkabinde, as the lead investigator, file this complaint against Lieutenant General Phahlane?
From memory, this equipment was supposed to be the name of the software of the program, and it was supposed to have been delivered and money was paid for it, but it never arrived. And the supplier of that, I think, is the same Ibanathan Kistia. So in other words, it was not a purchase because nothing was delivered, but money was paid. That's the issue. So it was a fraud and corruption. Yeah.
And what was the explanation given for that? SAPS
Can-
has paid, was this at the time when Lieutenant General Phahlane was the acting commissioner? What was his position at the time?
First to a time when General Phahlane was acting national commissioner, and this stuff was ordered by crime intelligence.
My understanding of how procurement works within government is that you use supply chain. So this would have gone through supply chain, and you make the allegation that he bought this equipment for over 54 million, but in fact it was never delivered.
That's correct, ma'am.
And there was no accountability for
No
that.
accountability for that.
Okay, and then we move on. And what has happened to that investigation?
I'm not sure if it's the same one, depending on case number. It would be the one that is perhaps before court now in November. If you allow me for a second, I can double check for you the case number.
Yes, you may.
Yes, ma'am, indeed, it's the same one. It's 3rd to 4th of November to 4th of December. That's when it'll go on trial.
Does that form part of our bundle? Is that in the exhibit file?
My understanding is yes.
Just for the record, I think it is annexure 20, RJM 20, and it's part of the exhibit bundle, but we will not go to it now. Then you moved on to investigate the second matter, which was another complaint regarding General Phahlane. So if you can go to paragraph 77 of your statement.
1 second. Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Um, From your statement, you say that in January 2017, a search warrant was executed at General Phahlane's home. Could you take the committee through that complaint?
So information was obtained and statements from a service provider that they had installed a surround sound theater and hi-fi or some electronic equipment. And they had installed it as a service provider in the general's house. And later on, we found out sometime afterwards, the general seemingly paid the company back. Now that doesn't take away the crime because it's like you've taken money out the till, then you put the money back. It doesn't take away the first offense. So Phahlane filed an application to challenge the search and seizure warrant. So who was there was the service provider themselves pointing out what they installed in the house to confirm it. And when we filed our answering affidavit in justification of the search warrant, Phahlane didn't move further with the case of objection to the search warrant, of getting it set aside. Only later on, after Nkabinde wrote to Minister Cele, did Phahlane file a supplementary affidavit, which was supported by Nkabinde's affidavit. That's a year later from where Nkabinde opens the same case himself. So it's a year later in which he's joined the other side. And I must add, probably for a brigadier's post. In fact, if I carry on further, without going through each and every one of these, he was given a post in the National Commissioner's office at some stage. And it came to the notice of the public and they objected. And then the then General Sithole then could not allow it to happen because I think they did some due diligence or something, perhaps late. But they then found out indeed the guy is not a trustworthy guy. And then he was not allowed to take up his appointment.
Thank you. Mr. MacBride, I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but you said it was a search warrant at his house because of a music system, a hi-fi kind of. What was the purpose of going to his house?
Because it was installed inside his house by the service provider, by a service provider who had paid for it. And the service provider so a related contractor who had paid for the system installed it. So it needed to be identified who installed it, where is it, and what is it. That's why the guy had to accompany the investigators.
So it was for the purposes of identifying that in fact the sound system is the one that was installed, that was paid for by the service provider.
Yes, yes.
And that is at paragraph 77 of your evidence. Now, to that end, Mr. Phahlane then has a problem with the fact that you've come to his house. What was the step thereafter?
Sorry, ma'am, could you repeat that, please?
If you go to your paragraph 78.
I have it.
Just for the sake of completion of this part, because you make, in your evidence, you state that he had received this money from service providers.
Yes.
But we don't know that he had, how do you know that he had received this money from service providers? Besides the fact that you've now got a search warrant and you are able to identify the music system. But how does it come to you as IPID, not you personally, but you as IPID, that it's service providers that are in fact paying for
Yes, so there were whistleblowers, including the service providers, and including the estate manager. Once the estate manager appears to support Phahlane on a number of issues, he's actually leaking information to O'Sullivan in any case. So that's how O'Sullivan knew so much about what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. So at paragraph 78, you say that Phahlane denied that he had received kickbacks from SAPS suppliers. Another search and seizure operation was conducted at the premises of FDA. This initiated litigation. Oh, before I continue, who is FDA or what is FDA?
FDA is a company owned by Kgomotso, which supplies software systems, crime registration systems, forensic data analysts. That's what FDA stands for.
And what was his connection to Mr. Phahlane?
Well, according to initial statements, and General Phahlane, yeah.
Okay. And this ended up in court. It says that this initiated legal litigation proceedings by Keith Kitting of FDA to challenge the warrant.
Yes.
At Annexure RJM 15, which can be found at page 620.
320.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second, ma'am.
620.
Have it now.
613. 613.
Second. Almost there. So it's a judgment in the High Court of South Africa, Gauteng Division, in which the FDA and Keith Kitting, the owner, challenged the magistrate's decision, challenged the Minister of Safety and Security, that's a term he uses, and one of the Hawks officers who was assisting IPID in the investigation because of shortage of manpower, sorry to use that term, Sissoko had approached Libya to provide assistance. So it was a joint operation between IPID and the DPCI. So that was it. So that's why they and a Colonel J. Duploy. So that's what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
So the judgment basically in effect says that if there are minor technical difficulties or discrepancies in the execution of a search warrant, it's not of a substantial nature, the search warrant is then permitted and is not set aside. So a lot of documents of the on the different transactions relating to different purchase of goods and the hiring of FDA and FDA actually is like the sole supplier of SAPS. So SAPS is held hostage by FDA. So SAPS had to pay FDA now the other day like X amount of million because they would hold payment at some stage.
What does FDA supply to SAPS? If you say that they're the sole supplier to SAPS and they get paid in the millions, what is it that they actually supply to SAPS that other service providers cannot supply?
It's software to deal with the evidence and exhibits or related to criminal evidence, yeah.
A software?
Software related to the storage, classification of of evidence. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I think also they're part of the crime scene investigation also. I think there's one case where there was like ultraviolet lights or something that something was not right about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in essence, in this judgment, Mr. Keating, together with other applicants in the matter, were challenging the search and seizure operation at their various entities.
Yes.
And at page 247 of the bundle is the order by Kgomotso J. What was the outcome of that matter?
Well, the outcome is that, let me just find it again, 6:2. So the outcome, in effect, was that the search warrant was executed in accordance with the law, and the evidence will be admissible in court.
Okay. If we go to page 26619 of the same judgment,
I have
just
it
to
here.
place this matter in context. Judge Kgomotso discusses that this warrant was issued on the basis of an affidavit deposed to by the third respondent, Colonel Kobus Rulevse,
Yes, sir.
who describes himself as a colonel in the SAPS stationed at Directorate Priority Crime Investigations. While the matter of whether the document that I have referred to constitutes an affidavit or not has been placed in dispute for now. Colonel Rulevse states that the warrant is required in an execution as its execution is likely to give material and relevant information relating to the alleged offenses of fraud and or theft and or corruption and or racketeering and or money laundering. He then makes reference to an investigation involving the former acting national commissioner, Lieutenant General Johannes Kgomotso Phahlane, on the one hand, and John Diale and Jolanta, a name I cannot pronounce at the moment, in what is described as an alleged, I'm told it's Komodolowitz. I'm going to take that, but I don't have any Polish relations. So in what is described as an alleged corrupt relationship, alleging the receipt of cash that Lieutenant Phahlane would have received from Crime Tech to fund the financing of his private dwelling. Now, you mentioned earlier in your testimony that part of the things that you were investigating under the Phahlane Task Team was his home that was worth 8 million rand.
Yes.
Could this be relating to the same dwelling when they say dwelling, because it has not defined which dwelling that is?
Yes.
So at paragraph 74.1 of your statement.
1 second, ma'am. I have it here.
You may read it into the record.
The case to be investigated by this task team was in relation to the construction of General Phahlane's 8 million rand house at Sable Hills Estate, allegedly paid by funds received from SAPS service providers.
And this case has to do with, you've told this committee that it is Keith Keating who brought this matter before Judge Kgomotso.
Yes.
In the Pretoria court. And you've also led evidence to the fact that Keith Keating owns a company called FDA.
That's right.
And he's also the sole supplier at SAPS for technology and being at the crime scene first.
Yes, yes.
And so forth. So could this Keith Keating and this paragraph 12 be speaking to what you are saying at 74.1?
If we go back and remember.
Particularly the last two lines of financing General Phahlane's private dwelling.
Then it's reference to the Sable Hill dwelling, yeah, Sable Hills dwelling, yes.
And this would not have been the first complaint regarding General Phahlane's home. There were other complaints that came before you. Were there any other complaints that came before you at IPID regarding General Phahlane's home?
I'm not sure off the top of my head which complaints came in, but the main complaint came in from, so on Phahlane was first there was a Munsami, there was Pop Crew, and then there was Paul O'Sullivan, who had laid a charge whilst I was in suspension. And when I had returned, wanted to know where the case is. And he had taken the time to look at, from his background, and he attaches the affidavit to the complaint. The rate at which the building goes up, mention is made to the, there was a bond, but the bond was never drawn on. And the bond was for something like 600,000 or something, and could not really build 8 million rand house.
Okay. You've mentioned that there was a complaint by Paul O'Sullivan as well as Pop Crew relating the same property in question.
Not specifically the property,
Yes.
I can't remember specifically.
Okay. If I can just take you to paragraph 69 of your statement.
Okay. 69. O'Sullivan had already started looking at the rate of speed at which Phahlane's Sable Hills house had been built on from a Google application, as well as a cost breakdown. O'Sullivan also had evidence to support suspicions that Phahlane was receiving kickbacks from SAPS suppliers. An example was a man named Keith Keating, a SAPS supplier who owns a company called FTA. I will now demonstrate what the investigators revealed about Phahlane's conduct with respect to SAPS suppliers.
And then if I can take you, if I can then ask you to turn a page back at page 65. Sorry, paragraph 65, page 18.
Yes, I have it, ma'am.
You can take us through your evidence.
On or about October 2016, after my return to work, I met with representatives of Pop Crew, and they made a similar complaint as that made by O'Sullivan. The complaint included aspects of malfeasance at the SAPS forensic lab, stores, including but not limited to exhibits going missing, such as suspected illegal narcotics and rhino horn. Normal procedure would be to report this to the head of national investigations, who was Sissoko. However, they both had been dismissed at the time. I suppose that is Sissoko and Kuba. Attached here is a copy of the Pop Crew complaint marked as annexure RJM 11.
So if RJM 11 is at page 594, if you can turn there.
1 second, ma'am. It's Colonel Munsami.
What is that document? If you can just perhaps define.
It's a complaint forwarded to the National Commissioner by Colonel Munsami, complaining about irregularities within the Division Forensic Evidence. In terms of date, there's just a fax on there of, I don't know where it goes to, it's 08/2014. I don't see his date on his signature.
Okay. It says that at page 596, it reads Commander Local Criminal Record Center, East London.
Yes.
Why has this document come from East London?
Off the top of my head, I think they experienced problems there also, from East London to the National Forensic Lab.
Okay. And then if you could turn to the page, to annex to RJM 10, which is at page 542.
One second, ma'am. Have it for you.
Chair. I've had my hand up for a while.
Yeah, I have said that the advocate is leading evidence for the first time. I'm only going to take questions thereafter.
So you're saying that we're not doing questions of clarity anymore?
We will take them thereafter.
Okay.
Yes. 542. Are you at 542? Yeah, 542?
Yes,
542.
I have it.
Okay, what is that document?
It's a sworn statement by Paul O'Sullivan. He gives the ID number and explains what it's about. And it gives a long explanation about its issues. This is, it is commissioned on 25th of February 2016. I'm still on suspension then. I'm not sure where he commissions it. I'm trying to find a
What was
Sampton.
what was the statement prepared for?
For the complaint to Kgomotso.
To Kgomotso.
Yes.
At page 546, it is dated and commissioned, and this is on the 25th of February, 2016.
That's correct,
Is
ma'am.
that correct? Okay. It is fairly small, the writing.
Yes, yes.
Okay. At paragraph 3, in fact, we can start at paragraph 1 of this complaint.
Yes, yes.
Just to put it into context, it says, I'm an adult male forensic consultant and confirm that the information set out on SAP 3MA is true and correct. The purpose of the sworn statement is to open a criminal docket in respect of offenses and corruption, money laundering, and racketeering. My allegation is that the conduct of one General Johannes Phahlane smacks of corruption and cronyism, and only a proper in-depth investigation will reveal the truth. I therefore hereby, and then he sets out his complaint in detail. Yeah. He then comes to you. If you can just tell us firstly, put this document into context, this complaint, and what happened to this investigation once he had complained.
So this investigation was made to Kgomotso whilst I was still on suspension. And what I understand happened is Kgomotso informed Phahlane there's an investigation against him. And seemingly also, I found out more recently, Kgomo, the infiltrator from crime intelligence, was given a task of investigating this case. So in my absence, Kgomo is inserted into IPID, and Kgomo is now given a task of investigating Phahlane matter, and it links up to a case with identical case number, 2 cases which cancel each other out. This is only found out when I come back. But indeed,
Before you, Chairperson, before you continue, Mr. MacBride, you just went through that very quickly. What do you mean 2 cases cancel each other out? So there was what I've understood at the moment is that there's a complaint against General Phahlane.
Yes, yes.
Yes, if you can just then take us through that step by step so that we can understand what you are
So on
explaining.
this specific occasion, I'm not sure, but there was a series of early closures or special closures. That's how it was called in IPID. I think that has been revised since this incident, which means people can close cases before the investigation is finalized because they don't fit in a mandate or the one is a duplicate of the other. And then ordinarily you'll have one continuing while the other one is removed. But in this instance, you find both were getting removed and closed in special closure.
How was that happening?
Two duplicate cases. And it was also to push statistics. So,
Is it I'm sorry to just interject.
okay, ma'am.
Is it common practice that in instances where you have a duplicate case, you surely would close one case of the duplicate and leave one open? So how did this actually happen, that both cases would end up being closed?
Well, it will be different people opening the two cases. And then the one saying, but this is exactly like the other. So it's we have case control number, CCNs, which is like the CAS dockets. When we take the information to SAPS, because that's how the system is set up, we then open a CAS number. So on this one, it appears that from an analysis, so someone complained also that there's special closures are going haywire. All of this in my absence. And it was then at the end of that year or the previous year, I think even IPID got praised for completing so many cases. I think by the portfolio committee also. But yet all of them were special closures or some dodgy business of bringing it to an end. So it was made to look smart. I think Kgomotso even got a bonus here. Yes, I think he got a bonus for that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us through that. So then Mr. O'Sullivan complains. Mr. O'Sullivan appears quite a bit within IPID, and he
Yes.
also features quite a lot in your affidavit.
Yes, yes.
What was his relationship to you, and
Okay.
what is his role, is he an IPID member? Is he a policeman?
No, he's not an IPID member, ma'am. He's a person with resources who has information. And at some stage, he had been involved, unfortunately, much to my disliking at that stage, in the Jackie Celebi case, because Jackie Celebi was like a bigger brother comrade in ANC, and then O'Sullivan takes credit for taking him down. So when I was appointed in IPID, he made a statement that, yes, IPID had made a statement that he has no case against Jackie Celebi, and that has not been corrected, and he's going to keep a hawk's eye on us. So I consulted people that in the investigative fraternity. I said, what must I do with this guy? Should I tell him, to go and get intimate with himself and leave me alone? And the people I consulted said, no, this guy is reaching a hand out to you. Go to him, hear what he has. He often has good information. So I met him then. That is before my suspension, when I just was appointed. And a good example, what happens is, I tell you, well, I first checked with ICD. I find out ICD made a statement which was a rough statement against him, very rough. I can't remember what it was, but I then, so IPID is now the derivative of ICD. So when I speak to O'Sullivan about this matter, I tell him, look, seemingly you are proven right. And perhaps my people, although I inherit this, were wrong. So sorry about that. He goes to the newspaper, excuse my laughter, and he tells the newspaper MacBride apologized. So the headline is a headline, says, MacBride of IPID apologizes. So I thought, no skin off my back. The guy is eccentric, a little bit strange, but he does have information. So when I was suspended, he laid this complaint now at Kgomotso. When I returned, he then came to ask, keeping up his promise of watching us like hawks, his promise, where is his case? And I think he was also the person who brought the pop crew to us. So Bunsame had complained to him, Popro had complained to him. He is the go-to person of disgruntled SAPS members who are whistleblowers who see wrongdoing going on. They go to O'Sullivan. That's what happens. So he sits with a lot of information, even at times when I thought he was wrong. There was an occasion when he was in a public spat with the Crime Intelligence General, who I know to be solid and who does good work. And the general asked, can you speak to this guy? I don't like what you're saying. And then I put them together, they must have a go at each other. Because I don't like stories, carrying stories. One of the biggest sins we make in this country, we make in even political parties, and which I've seen made here in this parliament by Begitele, is running, carrying stories, not listening to the other side. So I put them together and say, talk it up. Come, tell us what it is. Then they were having a go to each other. Allegations were made, counter allegations. In the end, O'Sullivan was satisfied. But the guy hadn't told the truth. There was something he left out which was true before, but was not true at that time. And in any event, O'Sullivan proved to be correct, even when I thought he was wrong on a piece of information. Yeah, so he's got that reputation of being solid, of receiving a lot of information. And so he also tends to brag. For example, there is a case, this one that Phahlane is on, that's going to court in October. He basically said on TV somewhere that he gave the information for the case. That's not true. That case was done by Temani Binang, mostly on his own. So Paul is like that. He has good information, but sometimes he wants to be the center of the story. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is going to appear before this committee and he can tell us where he got the information from. For now, I'd like to take you back to your statement.
Yes,
You returned back to your position once your suspension was lifted. And you get back to the office and find out that there was a complaint laid with Kgomotso, but nothing was in fact done. If I can take you to page 598 of the bundle.
Yes, I have it.
What is that document?
That's a document by Kgomotso writing to Phahlane, against whom the complaint is laid. I can read it out. Kindly be informed that we have received a complaint from Mr. Paul O'Sullivan regarding allegations of tender irregularities and irregular appointments. The IPID in Gauteng have been tasked to grammar's problem, investigations regarding the above case, to conduct investigations. You are requested to arrange a suitable date for IPID to meet with you. And then Phahlane writes to, I think it's his PA, Helen, yes, schedule accordingly. So Phahlane is informed by Kgomotso that O'Sullivan laid the case. At that stage, Kgomo gets the case, but nothing happens. There are no threats against anybody. Nothing happens. So O'Sullivan's already made his complaint, I am on suspension, no threats against anyone. When I come back, I put Mandla Matlangu in charge of the case. Suddenly, when the task team is set up, threats start coming. And by 2017, early, he tells me that General Mkhwanazi came to him and told him he must just leave this case alone. Guys are too dangerous. And I said to him, what you want to do? You know, you've got a family and stuff. Why didn't you let me know so I know? And then I can refer to DPCI or something. And he said, no, Chief, I want to go on with it. I don't think it's fair that they put pressure on me. So that's how we left it. And things really took off when Sissoko and Kuba came back, and then there was more direct supervision. Because I, as the head of the organization, have to do loads of other issues, compliance, ages report, and all of that, together with my team. So I don't have time to check every investigation. But for special systemic corruption investigations, which we often report to Parliament, that was the way we worked. We would report stuff to Parliament. Sometimes they'll ask, how far has it gone? So there was a time frame about progress. That resulted in new momentum into corruption cases and real traction. So we're making headway in these issues. And for the first time, really, whether it's ICD or IPID, is now making inroads into the real corruption, not 200 rand on the side of the road, we're talking millions. And in the same period, we also started looking at crime intelligence stuff and start finding irregularities, the corruption. And there was already this Nemo Tanzela that Kuba speaks about is already fired. They got a criminal case he's waiting for also.
And that was as a result of the investigation that you conducted?
IPID investigations and whistleblowers. So the public was with us on this matter. We only got a hard time, Chief Whip. When we came to Parliament, I can't remember who the Chief Whip was then, but you could not touch Phahlane on anything. Phahlane was the man. Couldn't touch him. There was one member of opposition threatened to assault me and told me to watch out. Okay, he's now a member of the GNU, so what can I say?
Well, Mr. MacBride, through you, Chair, just to wrap up on O'Sullivan, when General Phahlane appeared here last Wednesday, he informed this committee that O'Sullivan, together with Sarah Jane Trent and IPID official members, attended to his home, his private home. Do you have any comments to say about that?
Yes, I inquired about it because he sent me a message. When people visited my home and he sent it to me and the card I think is Matlangu's card. And I think I didn't respond to him, but I asked the guys what had happened. And they said, no, O'Sullivan was pointing out a crime scene. This is how they said it to me. And that their car was a bakkie that only had space for two. So they needed to go into a car with 4 seats, which was O'Sullivan's car. And that's how 4 of them went together to the house. When I asked why was O'Sullivan allowed to take the lead in some instances as reported, the answer I got back is no, they were doing the white man thing. Okay, what's a white man thing? White man thing is we as black people get ignored, we don't get access to the place. People look at us condescendingly. So let's use a white man, push a white man in front. And that's how they got access. And also Paul had that Jooste apparently was Paul's informer also, the estate manager. So that's what happened. The guys So it's like Cuba going to meet in Nematanzela. He goes to meet Nematanzela, but I thought he should have told us beforehand. And we could, he didn't know he landed up on Mkwenazi. But at the time, so Mkwenazi's people told our investigator, hey, your chief in task team investigator is here. So what you worried about working hard? MacBride's contract's finishing soon. So that's how it came to me. So I didn't say, no, that's a wrong move, or that's a wrong move. I said, no, Kuba must play it how he wants to play it so he gets the information. He's the guy on the ground. I'm not there. He must play it how he played it. And that's what I am. I don't micromanage, and I don't second guess my people I work with. That's one good thing about me. I'm not a specialist in anything. I take specialists, pull them together and make them work for a good cause. Like IPID under my tenure.
So what came of that matter? He complained. Did he formally complain?
Which is Phahlane.
Phahlane.
He complained, came to Parliament. So to show you Parliament, Chair and Chief Whip, Parliament was a place where you get crucified. So I understand when honorable members maybe are unhappy if I'm smiling too much. So what happened is, for the first time in the history of South Africa, with Phatlane's complaint and the support he had, the investigators have to answer to the suspects in the official parliamentary portfolio committee on police. Never happened before. Suspect is a suspect. Now we must answer to our suspect and give explanations. All of this is craziness, should not have been done. And we had to go through that. When we went to Scopa, we had to go to Scopa and then make a presentation on his matters. I think at that stage it was, Phahlane was on suspension. It was Sithole. Sithole is refusing to give information about one other issue. And I think on one occasion it was about FTA also. While we're sitting in the Scopa, there is Kid Keating sitting in the corner there listening to the whole testimony. So what happened? It means one of the policemen told him, come there, we're going to be talking about you today. So he was sitting right there listening to him. So they're always one step ahead. And we were getting lambasted all the time. We had no help from Parliament to compel SAPS to comply with our requests, which by law they have to.
Are these meetings closed meetings? Can the public not enter to be part of the meeting? Are you suggesting that he snuck into a meeting that was not a public meeting?
No, ma'am, indeed it's a public meeting, there were journalists there. The point is, he's an implicated person, what's he doing there?
Okay.
Who told him to come and sit there and listen to our report about how far we've gone with the investigation?
Okay.
That's the issue.
If I can then just maybe to jog your memory, on your statement at page 22, paragraph 79,
1 second more.
just to close out on Phahlane, General Phatlane's complaint.
Okay, I have it.
In your statement, you state that in November 2017, General Phahlane lodged a security breach complaint under case number that the complaint was regarding Paul O'Sullivan, who accompanied members from IPID to his Sable Hills estate.
Yes, yes.
Page 22, paragraph 79.
I have it, ma'am.
Yes. The complaint was regarding Paul O'Sullivan, who accompanied members from IPID to Sable Hills estate during investigations into
Yes.
General Phahlane. So he did lay a formal complaint with the police, because I see that there is a case number.
No, what he did is, this is concocted, by the way. This is a concocted breach. It's like a breach of his house, but it's not there. So crime intelligence was now part of contriving that is security breach. In the meantime, when security breach is made, there's at least 3, we have 2 affidavits here. There is another one, I sent it to evidence leader, is, I think it's Kruger,
Yes, if you just continue in your statement,
okay.
you are
one
now at page 80, sorry, at paragraph 80,
second.
still on the same page,
Crime
22.
Intelligence had earlier, on the 2nd of November 2017, done an investigation of the alleged security breach under CAS 534/05/2017, found that there was in fact no such security breach. The officer who did the investigation made statements to that effect. So we have Kutsia and we have Kruger, and there's another one, Henir, also which states the same thing as the other two, RJM 16, RJM 17. And in the rush, we omitted one of them, but most of these documents are all old documents. They've been written and nothing is being made up in response to Phahlane's allegations or Inkabinde. These statements were there from long ago and were ventilated in many fora, including Parliament.
Okay, if you can then turn to page 649 of the bundle,
Yes, ma'am, 1 second.
that is annexure RJM 16.
Ma'am. It's Janine Kutsia.
Yes, what document is before you?
It's a statement by the crime intelligence officer, Janine Kutsia, who is a captain in the police service station at Crime Intelligence Head Office. On Wednesday, the 30th of the 11th, I received instruction from Lieutenant Colonel Kruger to accompany him to a meeting at Brigadier Moyani's office. Brigadier Moyani asked us to attend to a security breach complaint that Acting National Commissioner Phahlane's resident. The said address, we interviewed the security manager, Prik van der Walt and Chris Huster.
If you just read, so at paragraph 5, it reads, oh, before I go to that paragraph, page 650, it is dated the 2nd of November 2017. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So at paragraph 5, if I just read it, can read it into the record, we was informed that on 9 November 2016, persons that introduced themselves as members of Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID, visited the complex regarding an investigation against General Phahlane.
Yes. Yes.
I compiled a report, which I handed to Colonel Henny and a computer copy of the of Lieutenant Colonel Kruger. The report was classified as secret. I never received the signed report back, and I was also never informed of the outcome of the report. We know that that happens in November 2017.
That's
If you turn to the next page at 651,
Yes. Yes.
can you read in the date at the bottom of the page?
Yes, it's 24th of the 11th, 2017.
Yes, and that statement, who is the author of that document?
Franz Hendrik Christian Kruger, state under oath. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel in South African Police Services, stationed at Crime Intelligence Office, and gives his number. Additional to my previous statement dated 2nd of the 11th, regarding paragraph 5, I was informed that Paul Sullivan was members of the was with members of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate who visited the Sable Hill complex regarding an investigation against General Phahlane. I never recommended any further investigations into, and he puts in quotation marks, security brief tasking we received. I was informed by a source that SAPS members from Northwest Province visited Sable complex just after we left and before we even submitted the report, which means that the Northwest guys, Jan Mabula's team, arrives long before the outcome of a security breach report is done. And the cell phone analysis shows that Phahlane phoned them straight away and they headed straight up from Potchefstroom to Pretoria. Yes.
So what we know is that, from your evidence, is that The complaint by General Phahlane regarding a security breach at his home by Paul O'Sullivan
Yes.
was in fact investigated. We have two statements to that effect
Yes.
by two members of the SAPS.
Yes, yes.
If you can then just continue with your evidence at paragraph 81 of your affidavit. It is at page 23,
Which one I have it, ma'am?
okay?
So Lieutenant Colonel Franz Hendrik attended to the complaint on 2nd of November 2017 and confirmed that Paul O'Sullivan was with members of IPID, visit Stable Hills. No recommendation regarding further investigation into security breaches made. SAPS members from Northwest Province visited Stable Hills complex after we had left before I could submit a report. That's just what it states. Acting Divisional Commissioner General Machele, the Northwest Provincial Commissioner General Motswanyane, together with Mabule team, concocted a report that was used to authorize their travel arrangements for the purpose of investigating the purported breach. I pause to mention that this was an abuse of power by General Phahlane as the acting national commissioner at the time. The Northwest team was created to counter-investigate against the IPID investigation team. This counter-investigation step was authorized under the guise of a security breach against the acting national commissioner. As a result of the concocted report on 10th May 2017, a second charge of defeated ends of justice was registered by Nkabinde as the complainant against General Phahlane. Regarding Mabule team, case number 53405-217, attached to it is a copy of the statement by Nkabinde in his mark, annex RJM 18.
Turn to that annexure, it's at 652.